All right, let's dive into this one. Licensed to Parent, How to Raise Resourceful, Resilient, and Independent Kids.
Ooh, CIA parenting.
CIO parenting.
I see.
I'm really excited to unpack this one with you.
Me too.
Because, honestly, who couldn't use a little bit of CIA wisdom?
Right.
When it comes to parenting.
Yeah.
Our authors this time.
Yes.
Christina and Ryan Hillsberg. So interesting.
A married couple.
A married couple.
Who both spent over 20 years in the CIA.
Wow. And now...
Now they're applying their unique skills to raising their 5 kids.
So 5 kids, so they've got a lot of experience to draw on.
Yeah.
And what I really like about it is it's not like they're saying turn your kids into little spies.
Yeah.
It's about taking the principles
Exactly.
of preparedness, risk awareness,
adaptability. Yeah.
and using those.
Then using those.
To raise kids who are confident and capable.
To raise great humans.
To raise great humans.
Yeah.
So before we get into the
nitty-gritty
of CIA parenting, let's kind of decode Christina and Ryan, how they even ended up with this unusual approach.
Well, Christina's path to the CIA was anything but straightforward.
Really?
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Like, where did she start?
She grew up in the Midwest.
Okay.
And initially, she pictured a very traditional life for herself.
Okay.
But then she discovered a passion for languages, and particularly Swahili.
Swahili?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and so that opened up a whole new world.
Yeah, that really did.
So Swahili leads to the CIA.
It does, yeah.
That's quite a leap.
It is a leap.
What was it about this language that sparked such a dramatic shift?
It wasn't just the language itself. Learning Swahili exposed her to all these different cultures and ways of thinking.
Right.
And so she studied in Tanzania, even considered joining the Peace Corps.
Wow.
And then almost by chance, she ended up at a CIA recruitment event. And her language skills were in high demand. And before she knew it, she was on the path to becoming a CIA officer.
Okay, I have to ask, like, did she rock the whole spy training thing?
She did. She aced almost everything.
Okay.
Background checks, psych evals, the works. But there was one hiccup.
Oh.
The polygraph.
Okay.
She almost failed because she'd eaten a poppy seed muffin.
A poppy seed muffin. That's what almost derailed her CIA career.
It just goes to show you how even the smallest details matter in that world.
Right.
But luckily, she got a second chance and passed the polygraph the next day.
Talk about a close call.
Right.
So, poppy seed muffin drama aside,
yeah,
she officially joins the CIA.
She does.
What kind of work did she do?
She became an analyst specializing in East Africa.
Okay.
Which really played to her strengths, you see.
Yeah.
Even before the CIA, her academic background had honed her research and analytical skills.
Okay.
So she just became one of the top analysts in her department.
That's impressive, but hold on. You mentioned earlier that she initially envisioned a more traditional path, like getting married, having kids.
Yes.
Where does that fit into the picture?
Well, she did have a serious relationship early on with a fellow CIA officer.
Okay.
He seemed like the perfect guy on paper.
Uh-huh.
But deep down, Christina knew something was missing.
So she's got this demanding CIA career.
Yeah.
And a relationship that isn't quite right.
Uh-huh.
That's got to create some tension.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And it all came to a head when she was assigned to a temporary post overseas.
Okay.
And she realized she wasn't truly happy and ended the relationship.
Wow, so that must have been a tough decision.
It was.
So back to being single
yeah.
and focused on her CIA career.
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
This is where Ryan, the real-life Bond,
Ah.
enters the picture.
Okay, I knew we'd get to him eventually.
Yeah.
So give me the details.
Okay.
How they meet.
Okay.
Was it love at first sight?
It wasn't exactly love at first sight, but there was definitely an immediate spark.
Okay.
They met at a training course at CIA headquarters.
Ah.
And Christina was drawn to Ryan's adventurous spirit.
Right.
And the fact that he was an operations officer, the kind of agent who gathers intel in the field.
So like out in the field?
Out in the field, yeah.
Okay.
He was a stark contrast to the analysts that she usually worked with.
Right, so I'm picturing him scaling walls, disarming bombs, the whole 9 yards.
He was the real deal.
Okay.
Fluent in multiple languages, skilled with weapons, the whole package.
Uh-huh.
But there was a catch.
There's always a catch. What was it?
Ryan was divorced.
Okay.
And had 3 kids.
Whoa, okay. That changes things a bit.
It does.
How did Christina handle that?
Surprisingly well. She was smitten with Ryan and excited to meet his kids.
Uh-huh.
Their first outing together was to a pumpkin patch, which, as any parent knows, can be a chaotic experience.
Pumpkin patches are a challenge.
Oh, they are.
So did anything about Ryan's parenting style surprise Christina?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, like what?
Well, you see, Christina had this idea of herself as a future helicopter parent.
Okay.
But Ryan's approach was completely different. He encouraged his kids to explore, make their own choices,
Okay.
even when it came to, like, navigating a confusing corn maze.
Wow.
Or even discussing things like what to pack for a desert island.
So very matter of fact
Very matter of fact.
about these kinds of things.
It was all very matter of fact.
And Christina was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, this is a little different.
Yeah, and coming from her more sheltered upbringing, Christina found it a bit unsettling at first.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this whole CIA parenting thing comes from.
Right.
They're just naturally bringing these things into their
Into their parenting. Yeah.
So how did Christina adapt to this new world of adventurous kids and apocalyptic conversations?
Well, she started to see the value in teaching kids to be self-reliant and aware of their surroundings.
Okay.
And when she and Ryan got married and started their own family, those CIA-inspired parenting techniques really took center stage.
It sounds like they were blending their intelligence backgrounds with the everyday realities of raising a family. And I'm really curious to hear how they put these CIA parenting principles into practice. So listeners, this deep dive is just getting started.
Yes.
We'll be right back to uncover more about this unique approach to raising resourceful and resilient kids.
I can't wait.
Welcome back to our deep dive into CIA parenting. We're about to crack the code on some seriously cool techniques that Christina and Ryan developed, drawing from their CIA experiences. The first one is all about teaching kids to assess risk and get themselves out of potentially dangerous situations. They call it getting off the X.
It's a core principle in the CIA, and it's just as relevant in everyday life, especially for kids.
Okay, but getting off the X sounds pretty intense. Is this about dodging bullets and escaping explosions? How does that translate to, say, a trip to the park?
Well, the principle is the same whether you're dealing with a potential threat at the park or a more serious security situation. It's about quickly recognizing warning signs, trusting your gut, and removing yourself from the situation, even if it means being a little rude or disruptive.
So it's not just about physical danger. It's about teaching kids to trust their instincts in any situation that feels off, even if they can't quite explain why.
Exactly. Let's say your child is at a party and starts feeling uncomfortable. Maybe the other kids are pressuring them to do something they don't want to do, or the overall vibe just feels wrong. Getting off the X means they have a plan, a prearranged signal with you, a trusted adult they can call, or simply the confidence to excuse themselves and leave.
That's a great point. It's about empowering them to take action, even if it means going against the crowd or potentially causing offense.
And you know what? This concept came in handy for Christina and Ryan's own daughters. They were followed by a suspicious car while driving home one evening.
Oh, no.
Because Ryan had taught them about getting off the X early on, they knew exactly what to do.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What did they do?
Instead of driving straight home, they called their parents from a gas station, describing the car and their location. They positioned themselves in a well-lit public area and waited for their parents to arrive.
Wow, that's a perfect example of getting off the X in action. They recognized the potential danger, trusted their gut, and took steps to remove themselves from the situation. They even used the gas station, strategically turning it into a safe haven.
Exactly. And Christina herself experienced a similar situation while walking in a park with her young son. A man started following them, making her feel uneasy. Even though he didn't do anything overtly threatening, her instincts screamed, "Get off the X!"
So she didn't wait around to see what would happen.
No way. She quickly left the park, even though it meant cutting their walk short. She later realized that the man had been following other women in the park as well. Her gut feeling had saved them from a potentially dangerous encounter.
Those are some powerful stories. It really highlights how important it is to teach kids to trust their instincts and not be afraid to take action. But let's move on to another key principle of CIA parenting. Christina and Ryan are big believers in being prepared, right?
Oh, absolutely. And they take it beyond just the basics. Remember those adventure backpacks Ryan created for his kids? The ones filled with compasses, maps, and first aid kits.
Yeah, I was wondering about those. It's cute and all, but isn't it a bit over the top to give kids survival kits when they're just going to the park? Is it really necessary for the average family?
Well, Think of it less as a survival kit and more as a fun way to introduce the concept of preparedness. They're not equipping their kids for a zombie apocalypse, but they are teaching them to be resourceful and self-sufficient.
So it's about instilling that mindset early on.
Exactly, and those backpacks evolve as the kids get older. They become go bags, which are essentially emergency kits kept in the car or at home just in case.
Okay, now I'm getting flashbacks of those doomsday prepper shows. Is a go bag really necessary for the average family? What would you even put in one?
It might sound extreme, but having a plan and some basic supplies in case of an emergency can give you peace of mind. Think about it.
Yeah.
Natural disasters, power outages, even just getting stranded somewhere unexpected.
Okay, I can see how having a go bag could come in handy in those situations. But what exactly should go in one? I'm picturing a whole arsenal of weapons and a year's supply of freeze-dried food.
It's not quite that intense. Christina and Ryan recommend practical things like first aid supplies, basic medications, water, non-perishable food, a flashlight, extra batteries, warm clothes, and blankets.
That makes a lot more sense. It's about being prepared for the unexpected, not stocking up for the end of the world.
Right. They also suggest keeping copies of important documents, a little cash, and even some bartering items. You never know what could be valuable in an emergency situation.
Bartering items. Like what? Gold coins? Diamonds?
Not quite. They actually recommend things like cigarettes or small tools. You'd be surprised what people might trade for in a crisis.
Okay, I'll take their word for it. But, the whole motorcycle thing still throws me off a bit. I get that it's about having options for transportation, but it seems like a pretty drastic solution. Aren't there simpler ways to teach kids about being resourceful?
You're right. Not everyone is going to be comfortable with their kids riding motorcycles. But the point is to encourage alternative modes of transportation. It could be bikes, scooters, e-bikes, even just knowing how to navigate public transportation.
That makes a lot more sense. It's about expanding their options and not being solely reliant on one way of getting around. So besides alternative transportation and go bags, what other preparedness tips do they offer?
They're big on basic navigation skills. We're so reliant on GPS these days that we're losing the ability to read a map, use a compass, or even just understand landmarks.
It's true. If my phone died, I'd be totally lost.
Oh.
I can see how those skills would be invaluable in an emergency.
Absolutely. And it's not just about emergencies. Teaching kids to navigate without technology helps them develop spatial awareness and problem-solving skills.
Those are skills that can benefit them in so many areas of life. But what about self-defense? Do Christina and Ryan address that?
They do. While they're not advocating for turning kids into ninjas, they believe in teaching them some basic self-defense techniques and how to assess potentially dangerous situations.
I like that approach.
Well,
It's
yeah.
about empowering them, not scaring them. But where do you draw the line? We don't want to create a generation of paranoid kids who are constantly on high alert.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
The goal is to strike a balance. They encourage parents to have open conversations about safety, role-play different scenarios, and even consider enrolling kids in self-defense classes if it feels appropriate.
That makes sense. It's about giving them the tools and knowledge to feel confident, not fearful. Are there any other CIA parenting techniques that focus on this idea of situational awareness?
One that really stood out to me is the concept of GRAB. It stands for gender, race, age, and build. And it's a technique CIA officers use to quickly memorize the key characteristics of someone they might need to identify later.
Okay, that sounds pretty useful in the spy world, but how would a kid use that?
What?
I mean, are we suggesting they start profiling everyone they meet?
Not at all. It's about teaching them to be more observant of their surroundings. Let's say your child is approached by a stranger who makes them feel uncomfortable. By mentally noting the drab details, they'll have valuable information to share with the authorities if needed.
So it's like giving them a mental snapshot, even if the situation is too chaotic or frightening to fully process in the moment.
Exactly. And they also talk about teaching kids code words, secret phrases that only your family knows, to use in emergencies.
Like a secret family password. I love that idea. So if someone says they're a friend of the family and your child isn't sure if it's true, they can ask for the code word.
You got it. It's a simple but effective way to add an extra layer of security.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these seemingly extreme techniques can be surprisingly relevant to everyday life. It's not about turning kids into secret agents, but about giving them tools to be safer and more aware.
That's the brilliance of CIA parenting. They take these specialized skills and show how they can be adapted to make kids more resilient and better equipped to handle whatever life throws their way. But it's not all about safety and preparedness. Christina and Ryan also emphasize the importance of communication and critical thinking.
Those are definitely essential life skills no matter what path your child chooses. Listeners, we're about to delve into those topics in the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into CIA parenting. We've uncovered some pretty fascinating techniques so far, from getting off the X to building a go-back. Now let's shift gears and talk about a topic that's top of mind for many parents today: navigating the digital world. Kids are practically born with smartphones in their hands these days. How did Christina and Ryan approach online safety with their kids?
They took the same CIA parenting approach: risk awareness and preparedness. They didn't shy away from tough conversations about online dangers, just like they didn't sugarcoat the realities of physical safety.
Okay, but the internet is a constantly evolving beast. Where do you even begin to teach kids about all the potential pitfalls? I mean, it's hard enough for adults to keep up.
They started by emphasizing the importance of critical thinking. Remember, that's a core principle of CIA parenting: questioning assumptions, evaluating information, forming your own opinions. Christina and Ryan made sure their kids understood that not everyone online is who they say they are.
So it's about teaching them to be skeptical, to not just blindly accept everything they see online.
Exactly. And they also stressed the importance of protecting their privacy. They taught their kids about strong passwords, being careful about what information they share online, and using privacy settings on social media.
Those are great practical tips. But what about cyberbullying? It seems like every time I turn around, there's another story about kids being harassed online. Did Christina and Ryan address that with their kids?
Absolutely. They talked about it openly and honestly, emphasizing the importance of being kind and respectful online. They also encouraged their kids to come to them if they ever witnessed or experienced cyberbullying, creating that safe space for open communication.
That's so crucial. Kids need to know they can talk to their parents about these things without fear of judgment or punishment.
And they didn't just focus on the emotional aspects of cyberbullying. They also talked about the potential consequences of online actions. They explained that what you post online can stay there forever, and that it's important to think before you share.
So it's not about being overly restrictive or banning technology altogether, but about teaching them how to use it responsibly and safely.
Right. They view technology as a powerful tool that can be used for good or bad. Their goal was to empower their kids to be savvy digital citizens.
I like that, savvy digital citizens. It's not just about protecting them from the bad stuff. It's about teaching them how to navigate the online world with confidence and awareness.
And, it's not just about the digital world. CIA parenting also emphasizes communication skills that are valuable in any context.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just please and thank you here, right? What kind of communication skills do they focus on?
They encourage their kids to express themselves clearly and persuasively. They emphasized active listening, understanding different perspectives, and being able to articulate your own thoughts and needs effectively.
Wait a minute, persuasively? Are we talking about raising a family of master negotiators?
Not exactly. It's not about manipulation. It's about giving them the tools to communicate their ideas effectively and advocate for themselves.
So it's about helping them find their voice and use it confidently.
You got it. And they didn't just talk about it. They actually used role-playing exercises to help their kids practice these skills.
That's a great idea. It's like giving them a safe space to try out different communication styles and see what works.
And they didn't neglect nonverbal communication either. They talked about the importance of body language, eye contact, tone of voice, all those subtle cues that can make a huge difference in how a message is received.
It's true. Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it that really matters.
Yeah.
And I bet those skills are just as valuable in a job interview as they are in a tense negotiation.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, they also taught their kids how to read other people's nonverbal cues, which is a valuable skill in any interaction. It's like giving them a secret decoder ring for understanding human behavior.
So it's not just about expressing themselves, it's also about becoming more attuned to how others communicate.
Exactly. And it all circles back to that core principle of situational awareness, being present, observant, and able to adapt to different communication styles.
Okay, so we've covered online safety communication skills. And throughout this deep dive, we've seen how Christina and Ryan consistently emphasize critical thinking. Why was that so important to them?
They wanted their kids to be more than just passive consumers of information. They wanted them to question assumptions, analyze situations from different perspectives, and form their own opinions.
That's so important, especially in today's world where we're bombarded with information from all sides. Kids need those critical thinking skills to filter through the noise and figure out what's true and what's not.
And it's not just about evaluating information. It's about having the confidence to challenge the status quo, to speak up when something doesn't seem right.
So it's about raising kids who aren't afraid to think for themselves and question authority.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that CIA parenting isn't about turning your kids into little spies. It's about equipping them with the skills and mindset to be resilient, resourceful, and independent thinkers.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one big takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that you don't have to be a former CIA officer to raise capable and confident kids. Christina and Ryan show us that it's possible to blend preparedness with playfulness, to teach essential life skills without overwhelming kids with fear. It's about finding that sweet spot between empowering them and letting them be kids.
I love that. And, they leave us with this thought-provoking question. What's one skill or piece of knowledge from the CIA world that you think would be most helpful for kids today? And how would you teach it in a fun, engaging way?
That's a great question to ponder.
It is. Listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts, too. Share your CIA parenting ideas with us on social media or in your own deep dives. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.